Marking its 11th year, KOHLER organized KOHLER Bold Art, powered by Pecha Kucha in New Delhi. The event featured 6 architects and designers who gave their perspective on the theme, Designing for the Future, through an engaging Pecha Kucha storytelling format.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're delighted to be back here among you with the KOHLER Bold Art in Pecha Kucha style, featuring 6 architects and designers. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we celebrate design and host a dialogue between you and our skill masters. Our theme is Designing for the Future. So let me stop here and invite from KOHLER, Mr. Ishan Kala, General Manager, Omni-Channel Marketing.
Before we start, a warm welcome to everybody on behalf of KOHLER. To look to our future, firstly, we must cherish our past. Be clear what we stand for. As KOHLER, what matters to us is how what we create makes you feel. Does it elevate your experience? Does it enhance your well-being? Does it leave you inspired for graciousness? For us, design started with a simple step 150 years ago of taking a simple cast iron horse trough, putting some features on it and calling it a bathtub. 20 years later, it transformed into an iconic design. Today, that design still exists, 150 years on. It's something beautiful, aesthetic, timeless and iconic, and represents KOHLER in many ways. How do we take this expression of color to the future? The future is now curated, collaborative, making art meet industry, but adding the ability to take this at scale. The future for us, what does it bank on? What does it bank on from product design? We are committed to 4 pillars on which we will build our products and our experiences. They are the pillars of wellness, sustainability of course, inclusivity, and there's no need to say it, but smart, intelligent, connected AI is everywhere. The bottom line for us is innovation. And for innovation, it's the grit to continuously innovate and test the future today. To sum up in a nutshell, our future of design for brand and for product design is very collaborative. And in this spirit, I ask creators like you, those unafraid of bold action, those challenging the status quo, those pushing the boundaries to join us on this journey, 150 years in the making. We at KOHLER are a community of creators who champion creators like you, and we will always innovate boldly for the last 150 years and the next 150 years together with you.
Now that we've heard from Ishan, let's dive right in. And we begin tonight with Sudipto Ghosh, a graduate of the School of Architecture, CEPT, Ahmedabad, and ETH, Zurich, with a master's in architecture from the University of Cincinnati. So let's hear Sudipto share his visions for designing for the future.
So let's talk about the future, since I'm the first speaker, the word future. But tell me something, why do we always pick someone else to tell us what our future is going to be? Someone like an expert, someone with a title like a trend forecaster or something like that. But why do we even want to know? Because we are not comfortable not knowing. We fully believe that it is possible to know. And a scientific mind not comfortable with ignorance needs to know. And yet, science is yet to fully explain many realities of our world. And this is the black hole, but most significant of them is what makes our hearts beat. Medical experts say something about electrical impulse and cardiac muscles. It's like the scientific knowledge is like an atomizer. It gives us tinier and tinier things to remember into this specialization, into that specialization, until our worlds are split into many, many different particles. And interestingly, an atomized world made distinct and differentiated into tiny bits is precisely that kind of thing that can be taught to a computer. the binary between a 1 and a 0 is fundamental. And a computer does not do well with fuzzy-duzzy approximations. Data science and classification of data is at the foundation of artificial intelligence and machine learning. If we break it down in terms of specific terms of difference and the relationships with each other, the machine is able to create routines that involve data processing and so on. The machine gets it, in other words. And our worlds have become complex, and there are scenarios, and the future of design needs to be understood in those terms of complexities of scenarios. And these can no longer be tackled by individuals, no matter how prodigious they might be. They require the hive minds of teams of specialists piecing together the bits in complex ways. But as our teams grow, so does the possibility of capable AI systems that are able to consider more and more scenarios and options and provide the best solutions that no super specialist would ever challenge. This is the end of the era of the arrogance of human intelligence. As architects and designers, we are the last surviving breed of generalists as opposed to specialists. We are responsible for bringing together the worlds of art, engineering, psychology, poetry, anthropology, history, sociology, etc., etc. Let us, for the sake of the future, not forget this in a race to become specialists and niche operators. Because if we did, we will be beaten at our own game by some very rudimentary AI systems. Let us be a part of a more holistic intelligence that resides in natural systems. Plants, insects, and other animals understand this very well, but we, in the arrogance of our own intelligence, have lost our way.
Coming up next is Amit Khanna, Design Principal at Amit Khanna Design Associates, a globally recognized multidisciplinary architecture and design firm that he set up in 2002.
So what is this future that we will be building in, right? This is our present. We are deeply contradictory, messy, it's unequal. This is a very famous photograph by Johnny Miller it's an aerial shot of Bombay. Our future can't be this, can't be more of this, right? Is there another path that we can walk down on? 90% of the next 2.5 billion people that will come to cities will come to Asia and Africa. Of these 2.5 billion, 500 million people are going to come to Indian cities. And these people will need buildings. All of these people are going to need lots and lots of buildings. We'll need buildings like this, schools, hospitals, places to stay, places to live. And while we may be able to solve the problem of energy, but that is not the whole story, right? Because architecture doesn't only consume energy, it consumes materials, it consumes resources. And those resources are scarce, and buildings are heavy, and buildings have a lot of stuff in them, and buildings can't always be made where they were planned. And I think the most critical point I like to say is that cities happen with or without designers. This is one of my favorite images. I always put it in all my slides. This is scenic farms in Sangam Vihar. They're both illegal, they both come up when no one is looking, and they are both active components of a city. And I think everything is an opportunity to do something slightly better. And if every one of us makes that slight change, we can all make a slightly better environment. And of course, because you are influencers, everybody copies you, that will spread out. So you must lead the way.
So we'd like to now invite Akshat Bhatt, the Principal Architect at Architecture Discipline, a New Delhi-based multidisciplinary architecture practice that he founded in 2007.
We know that our population has gone from 1 billion to 8 billion in the last 150 years. It's projected to go and peak at about 10 odd billion, and 90% of them are in Southeast Asia, and that's the place where all the action is. That's where we are. And what's happening here is we're sort of aping the industrial revolution of the West, and what that led to over the last 2 decades is a lot of waste, a burgeoning economy, but a lot of waste, and a lot of waste even in the profession that that we sort of represent, which is design and architecture and interior design and such. this is the Venus project. It's the first ever resource-based economy and the first ever resource-based architecture project because we had whatever it took. Because what we need is a future that regenerates. What we need is a future that recycles what we've already created, and we need a set of principles that take what was 200 years old, bring it back in the future. So what we have on the left is a project that we recently completed. It's a 200-year-old building that's been refurbished and is now being used as a hotel. What we have on the bottom right is the gasometer city just on the outskirts of Amsterdam. So, on the outskirts of Vienna. Use materials that are carbon positive, that are materials that are actually using things that are beyond net zero and that talk beyond sustainability. We're now trying to use these in projects that are large, dense developments. We're trying to do something in Kashmir where we create sandwiched houses using mass timber. We've managed to get it passed through regular fire regulations and urban and regulatory specifications so that you can start at least talking about material consumption a certain way. We're looking at larger scale projects for regeneration, reforestation, stuff that actually gives back, is carbon positive as opposed to being carbon neutral. And it's not something new. We sort of borrowed off the Eden project, which was something that was done in England a while ago. There's also a different approach for places like the desert, which is, this example is the Masdar city, where you're using a desert environment to actually capture power, generate power for a space which has ample solar energy available to it. So, recycle, engage with cyclic ownership, and actually start working with regeneration as a paradigm. Start changing our modes of transport and start changing our modes of ownership. Start changing what we believe we need to be proud in and start looking at ourselves, because this will now be about our survival, not about our planet's survival.
I think this Pecha Kucha concept is very interesting because you need to go straight to the point, you need to be concise. It can be very frustrating as well because so many things can be developed more in detail. But this is interesting and I'm very happy to participate today to this event.
The designs, the service, the technology behind it, obviously everybody knows about it. But I think they follow a certain relationship with the people who represent or who are associated with the brand. So I think it feels very nice and connected.
I think KOHLER as a brand doing this and setting up a platform like this is a great precedence in the industry because it sets a certain standard for dialogue, for fellow professionals to meet, and for us to sort of present a case for something like this, which is designed for the future.
Moving on, we have Pierre-Arnaud Cassin, the Managing Director of Ultra Confidential Design Private Limited.
This is a traditional workstation designed to accomplish a particular task that the worker had to accomplish. The worker is not the focus here. They are only there to serve a purpose. This image is showing you the shift to the digital, and this is something very important in our industry. You can see here the introduction of chairs, private cabins. These pictures show that a simple change in the technology alone is not sufficient to create an impact. Most of us are horrified looking at this picture. It represents a form of alienation. The worker is still limited to a function. But here, this is a project which we created where we can see different typology of workstation arrangements which adapt to the employee needs and requirements. This scenario requires to think what the people really want. This is also an important image of what is a workspace. This is a meeting room, as you can see. Just two words to describe this image: uniformity and rigidity. Innovation was risky at that time, so it was better to stick to business as usual. This image contrasts to the previous slide, where diversity and openness are seen as a source of innovation thinking. We switch from a rectangular shaped table that gives power to the person sitting at the extremities to a round table where everyone is encouraged to participate. This is the same idea in a different setup for different needs. Innovative teams are very agile. They need spaces to meet, discuss, present different ideas in an informal way. Space planning, but also aesthetic, can boost creativity and productivity. This is what we call regenerative architecture. It's a practice of engaging the natural world as a medium for a generator of architecture. This slide, you can see a project which we realized actually for a client. So we actually believe in what we do. And this is a VR experience where the customer can project themselves into the future space. They can visualize different scenarios, different options, while being in the space itself. And this image was created by our R&D department, where we have some flooring which actually creates energy and collects data. So it's serving the sustainability purpose. On the next image, you are going to see a content created through AI, through Midjourney. AI will be a great tool to fasten visualization and share ideas among stakeholders. Again, we have the idea of quick iteration and feedback integration that enables better innovation. Use of text-to-image prompt machine will evolve more as a design tool and will serve as an aid to the designers. Finally, we believe in humanity-centered design. Technology will not replace workers. It will empower them to become more creative and try to bolder ideas, exploring their own uniqueness.
Up next, ladies and gentlemen, is Shivani Gupta Mittal, Principal Designer at the House of Lalitya.
This lifestyle will rekindle our connection with nature, improving mental and physical health. You'll feel more alive and connected than ever. Biophilic design enhances spaces aesthetically by blending natural elements like plants, ventilation, and natural light, creating captivating, comforting environments. It's like adding touch of magic to every room. That's pretty much our job today as architects and designers. It enhances productivity and well-being in various settings. It impacts not just for beauty, it influences our performance and mood. This empowers our future by bridging a gap between city life and a great outdoor. In a healthcare setting, it promotes patient healing and a well-being by creating an aura that reduces stress, anxiety, and a need for pain medication. And ultimately, it will lead to a better overall healthcare. In residential spaces, biophilic design comes to life through strategies like maximizing natural light, incorporating terrace gardens, and vertical plant walls by using earthy tones. These design choices create homes that provide peace, and your Parosies will obviously think that you're a botanical wizard. In the future, accept this design trend like extensive green facades, smart systems for natural light and air quality, and focus on creating sustainable and health-enhancing built environments. This lifestyle promises to change the future for us. We will reduce our ecological footprint and promote sustainability. As we advocate for the green initiatives, we contribute to a future where the built environment coexists harmoniously with the natural world, creating a healthier planet for the generations to come. As we explore the future of this lifestyle, remember, it's not just for architects and designers, it's for all of us. So I personally encourage everyone to embrace this naturally inspired lifestyle by advocating more green spaces in your community. Together we can transform our lives and surroundings.
Our final speaker is Sonali Bhagwati, who graduated from CEPT Ahmedabad and has over 3 decades of professional experience under her belt.
Transition, the in-between space, which is there in all our projects, all our surroundings, all our communities. The in-between space could be very boring, endless corridors of power, but they are terrible. And what do you do to make this in-between space more dynamic? Thapar University was another project where we decided to look at in-between spaces as learning spaces. So there is this large podium that we created, and there are these 3 big buildings, which is the library, the computer science center, and the lecture halls. And we have a large ramp that comes in. There is a podium and a large ramp that takes you down, and the 3 buildings rise up from there on this podium. The underside of the podium becomes an undercroft, which becomes an extremely public place. So if you see, this is a 9-meter high podium, and there is an undercroft, which is a whole lot of public activities, and then you have the library, you have the lecture theatre, and then you have the computer science lab, 3 buildings set aside. Each of these buildings in turn boast of public spaces, in between spaces, which are beyond learning, beyond the classroom. So this is the in-between spaces promoting learning outside the classroom. So you can see over here the undercroft, which is extremely vibrant. It has all sorts of activities, student work being displayed, lectures being held, talks being held, plays being held, and it has become one of the most sought after places on social media. This was a library which was envisaged, and this was the library that got built. As you can see, the central space is very moving, very dynamic, and it actually promotes interaction outside the classroom. Let's look at Connaught Place. It is today a plethora of cars and congestion. If the same plethora of cars and congestion actually got transformed into a garden and it became into a large public space, that would transform the whole area. Let's look at another street in Chicago and what it was and what it is envisaged as a vibrant in-between space. So today, creating the right in-between transition spaces at community level is the future of design, and it's the future of our urban cities.
I think KOHLER has always been very proactive, not only as a brand that makes and sells sanitary ware, but as a brand that connects with the fraternity, with the profession. And I think they look at the fraternity as something where they love to promote ideas, they love to promote thoughts, and a lot of other activities.
So it's very good for architects, especially because it helps them funnel their thoughts together in a very short period of time. Otherwise, architects have a tendency to keep going on and on.
I personally found this very engaging and rewarding. It was fun, and personally I could actually talk about things that I would say in a 200, 500 word article. So it was kind of a quick and easy and yet interesting way of doing things.